Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Sober Oni of G&A Reviews here, with a servant spotlight for the best Shisho herself, Scathach. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 5-star servants. I'll also be doing spotlights for the new 3-star servants, Fergus and Diarmid, later on this week, so keep an eye out for those. Now, on to Scathach's stats. Scathach has a max HP of 14,825, and that's pretty average for a 5-star Lancer, but very high among 5-stars in general. In fact, she has the 9th highest max HP in the game. The 5-star Lancers as a whole have incredibly high HP, so that's not uncommon. And as for her attack, she has 11,375 attack at level 90, which makes her above average among 5-star Lancers, but just slightly below average among 5-stars in general. Now, taking a look at her skills, her first skill is Wisdom of the Dark Realm rank A+, which has an 80% chance to increase crit strength for 3 turns by 30 to 50%, an 80% chance to increase crit star absorption for 3 turns by 300% up to 500%, and an evade for 1 turn. Of course, that scales with level. Her next skill is Primordial Rune, which increases quick card effectiveness for 1 turn between 30 to 50% depending on level. And finally, she has Godslayer rank B, which increases damage against divine and undead enemies for 1 turn between 50 to 100%. Her only passive skill is Magic Resistance rank A, which increases debuff resist by 20%. And moving on to her deck and Noble Phantasm, she has a light quick deck, which is Quick Quick Arts Buster Buster with a quick Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm is Gaybog Alternative, which has a guaranteed stun and also deals significant damage to a single enemy with a chance to instant kill depending on overcharge. This Noble Phantasm is further strengthened through an interlude, which ups the damage modifier. Taking a more detailed look at her cards, we can see that she has 2 hits on her quick card, 3 hits on her arts card, 6 hits on her buster, and 7 hits on her extra, with a Noble Phantasm gain rate of 0.71% and a star rate of 12.2%. And what this means is overall she has decent to above average star generating skills and below average Noble Phantasm gain, particularly due to her high hit count on her busters and extra attacks, and we'll get into that more later on. So the obvious base of comparison for Shisho is Okita, and on the surface they're pretty similar, they're actually extremely similar, and there is some overlap between their roles. For example, like Okita, Shisho has a very strong single target Noble Phantasm that is built for nuking bosses. In this regard, Scathach is actually even better than Okita, because while Okita has Noble Phantasm that can do a ton of damage and is spammable, Shisho packs a weapon of mass destruction in her Noble Phantasm, and it's easily one of the highest damaging attacks in the game, especially at release. It's not hard to get this Noble Phantasm to do upwards of 200,000 damage against the right enemy. And on top of that, it has a guaranteed stun and a chance to insta-kill. Her Noble Phantasm's strength is in large part thanks to her skills. Primal Rune is an even better version of Okita's Shikuchi skill because it is targetable. We'll get into the merits of that later because it's particularly interesting on her, but if used on Shisho herself, it boosts her damage considerably and allows her to produce even more crit stars. Godslayer is also pretty much the same as Nobu's anti-divine skill, and as such, it's a pretty amazing skill against a strong niche of enemies. Many archers and berserkers are actually divine, including Gilgamesh, Uriel, Herc, Kintoki, and a ton more that haven't been released yet, so this is a pretty relevant skill for her to have, and it substantially increases her kill potential. And her final skill, Wisdom of the Dark Realm, is an evade, which is always strong, and it is combined with some RNG, crit absorption, and crit damage increase, which is fine as well. But Primordial Rune should always be maxed first, simply for how strong it is, followed by Godslayer, since that will come in handy a lot more often than you think, and finally her evade. You can prioritize her evade over Godslayer if you really want to use her as more of a crit lancer, though it isn't her strongest use. And unlike Okita, Scathach excels significantly as a quick support. Her star gen isn't as consistent or as good as Okita's, but it's good enough, especially when it's combined with the craft essence. And her quick buff is one of the best quick support skills in the game. This makes her just a little bit more team friendly than Okita, and her damage output makes her an even better boss killer than Okita. But she isn't without her shortcomings in other areas. Her major flaw is just a lack of consistency in both star generating and Noble Phantasm charge. Because her buster and extra attacks are the ones that have the most hits, unless you Brave Chain often, you're not going to get the full benefit of her star generating. And overall, it's just kind of counterintuitive that her busters generate so many crit stars. You'll definitely need to memorize the most effective order to use her cards in. And with only one arts card and not many attacks on her quick cards, it's very difficult to consistently generate Noble Phantasm charge. You're going to need to rely on crits and constant crits to charge her Noble Phantasm gauge at any reasonable speed. Also, while it's nice that she has crit damage and crit absorption on the same skill, it is RNG based, and even at 80% you will miss them on occasion. Sometimes one will proc and not the other, so it's just inherently unreliable. And finally, it is worth mentioning that in the very late game, her viability does drop a bit due to an adjustment in the game mechanics that heavily nerfs high single target damage servants like Shisho. But as I mentioned, she does fit well into a good variety of teams due to her utility. Her best role is being used as a boss slayer, and in that respect, you're going to want to pair her with Hans and Waver and Caesar, since all three can not only buff her attack, but her crit damage as well. Gil and Atlanta are other great supports in the crit team with Shisho, as is Okita. And if you want to use Shisho in a more support utility kind of role, then she's a fantastic support for Okita, since she can buff her Noble Phantasm and provide a good amount of crit stars. Ku is another servant that benefits from having a Shisho support, fittingly enough. And quick riders like Ushi and Ann and Mary also appreciate the crit stars and quick damage buff that Scathach can give them. And as for craft essences, her Bond craft essence overlooking the Haunted Realm buffs quick card effectiveness of all allies by 15%, so needless to say, if you are going for a support Shisho, this is probably the best craft essence you can put on her. Remember, it increases not only damage from quick cards, but also star generating from quick cards. Another strong support craft essence you can give her though is 2030, which is the new craft essence in the Scathach banner, since that can make her a bit more of a reliable crit star generator for the team. And if you're using her as your main attacker, you're better off with Imaginary Around, Kaleidoscope, or Halloween Princess, depending on whether you favor pure damage, getting your Noble Phantasm off quickly, or something in the middle respectively. And if Crit Shisho is your thing, there are a number of strong craft essences, including Moonlight Fest, Gudao, and Gem Magecraft, and you can even use the new Knight's Pride craft essence if you don't mind giving up some defense for a really high crit damage modifier. And overall, my opinion of Shisho is that she's sort of a hybrid quick support and boss killer. She excels even more than Okita in those regards, and hardly anyone can compete with her when it comes to raw damage, whether it's from crits or from just her shockingly strong Noble Phantasm. She also makes for a strong quick support with that targetable buff, a strong Bond craft essence, and an on-demand stun from her Noble Phantasm. However, she is plagued by inconsistency, both from her strange hit counts, making it difficult to charge a Noble Phantasm without relying on crits, or generate stars without relying on Brave Chains, and from the RNG on her crit skill. And then there's the issue of high damage, non-spammable Noble Phantasms being far less effective in the late game, which does hinder her considerably. And that's why, at release, Shisho gets an A-. I think she plays a slightly different but equally powerful role as Okita. However, I will say that much further down the line, all the way towards the end of the game, she does fall down to a B+, thanks to the break bar mechanic that gets introduced. And those are my thoughts on Scathach. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you plan on rolling for her. I know she's a very popular servant, so I'm sure you're all going to have a lot to say about her, and if you are rolling for her, I wish you the best of luck. Look forward to the 3-star servant spotlights this weekend as well, and if you want to stay up to date with all the channel news and FGO in general, please follow us on Twitter at GA_reviews, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like, and if you really enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, And until next time, guys, this is Sober Oni signing out. Peace.